Hello, everybody, and welcome to STOked, the ultimate Star Trek online podcast. My name is Chris.
My name is Jeremy.
Hey there, J-Man.
Hi. Hi.
You know, we have a lot of episode today.
Yeah, we do.
Coming up later, we've got an interview with Gozer, and he's been working on those remastered episodes, so we've got a ton of questions about that.
As well as some other things.
Of course.
Yes.
And then later on, we've got Tactical View. It's the review of the new weekly episode, Frozen. And some thoughts on that. We've jotted down a whole bunch of things, and we'll cover that. But up first, it's the news. And there's been probably a common ongoing thread for about a couple of weeks. We've talked about it maybe even 3 weeks ago on STOked. And that's the new duty officer system
which was previously referred to duty roster, but it sounds like it's gotten a slight tweak there. Some of the new information that's come out is basically breaking down how these duty officers... I said duty again.
Yeah, you did.
Break down as separate from your bridge officers / away team group.
Yeah.
So we've got some of that. Now, eventually you will be able to assign your buffs to, the classic positions, chief engineer, chief medical officer, first officer, etc.
Yeah.
But that is not going to be a part of the actual duty officers.
Yeah, so I think, and that's where a lot of confusion is coming in on the forums, because I think originally when... you go back a couple of months, we had a community feedback. How can you make your boffs more part of the story?
Exactly.
And a lot of this kind of came from that, where we thought, I need to have more of an emotional attachment to my boffs, because right now they're just a fancy pet that I could just toss. I only have a couple of boffs I care about. I work them into my character's storyline, and that's why I find them interesting.
Yeah.
The problem is generally I just couldn't give a crap about them, so we thought, let's theorize. If we could give them assignments, maybe make them responsible.
Right.
Give them story arcs, things like that.
That's why we were so excited to hear about this duty roster thing.
But that's not what we're getting now. The duty roster is going to be like almost like a card playing system, where you're going to have workers on your ship that you'll assign a task to, go away, and then a couple hours later you'll get a pop-up saying that task is done.
Right. Now, somebody I saw on the forum referred to, I don't know if you've played this, but Final Fantasy Tactics had the same sort of thing. You had a very large squad of people that could join you in your combat, but it was usually only 4 or 5 at a time. So you'd send the other 6, 7, 8 on their own separate missions to get extra money and items and stuff like that.
That's the idea here. But I think where the issue's coming in, from the player standpoint, they said, well, what we actually asked for was jobs to give our boffs, to make our boffs more important.
Exactly.
And what you're giving us is something to give the crew that's walking around our ship. Really, what we want for our crew walking around the ship is just the same uniform. That's fine. Cryptic's come back and said, look, here's the situation, guys. We're building them both eventually, but the first thing we're going to do is build this duty officer system. Right. You get this established, you'll get some passive buffs and things like that to your ship based on what they do.
Which, in a way, is kind of cool for those same reasons. It'll make us feel a little more attached to our actual crews and our actual ships.
Yeah. And there's also some talk about maybe once they do this, they might change the crewdicator to something a little less brutal. Because
I just lost 300 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't bother; they're coming back to life.
And then they're saying they're going to take this officer chief system or something like that, department head system, and that'll be sort of brought on top of the duty officer system in a sense.
Right.
But the key thing, the key thing to remember is that would be a second edition. And then one thing to just remember as we talk about all of this stuff is all of this is very much a moving object.
Yeah.
What we like to call in the industry, it's a rolling change. In fact, of this is subject to change. All of it.
We had a mock-up we were ready to show you guys in today's episode, and we already saw Thomas, the Cryptic Cat, pop by our chat room earlier and said, nope. Doesn't look anything like that anymore.
Thomas the Cryptic Cat. And that's just how much things are changing, though, as we go.
Yeah, that came out less than a week ago.
Yeah, but the key thing to take away from this is that duty officers are not going to be trainable. They're not going to be levelable, and they're not going to go on away missions with you.
Right. I think one of the reasons that this has confused people is because they basically asked for that. We're getting something else.
Well, and to be completely frank, I would prefer to have the bridge officer system.
Right.
I also want the duty officer one. So if I have to get that first to get the other one, that's okay.
Well, and I think it comes down to a little bit of prioritization, because this duty roster system, the duty officers that are not your bridge officers, are a completely new thing. Implementing them into the game is going to have very little effect on any other system that currently exists.
Right. Whereas
implementing the other system is going to fundamentally change the way we deal with our bridge officers.
It's a much bigger change.
Yeah. So I can kind of understand from that point of view why they're going with this one first.
And I appreciate that that's the approach they want to take, and I get it. It would be nice, though, if it wasn't like... maybe they could meet us halfway on the issue. There's a lot of more info in our show notes on this topic. To just keep things brief, I think
as well as a couple links if you want to read more into it. This is an ongoing conversation between Stall and Heretic, I think is the other new dev that started to show up more and more, and a couple others. There's a lot of people involved with their fingers in this pot.
Now, this next story is something that's important to me when we put it and feature it in the news segment. And we've got such little information on it.
Yeah. We basically have nothing. But this is one of those little tidbits where we both read it and went, ooh.
Yeah. So the question was asked, one of the forum posters said, I was hoping you guys would consider adding more music into STO that comes from the movies and TV series. And D. Stahl was pretty quick with the responses.
I like how you wrote his name in here, Dan the Answer Man.
Yeah, Dan the Answer Man. He says, we're working on it. Keep your ears on, good buddy. Could happen sooner than you think.
Can I go ahead and tell you what I think a lot of people are already thinking is going to happen?
Totally.
Next week's episode,
I know where you're going.
Coliseum, is not only going to include the Lurpa, but it's probably going to include one-on-one combat. And how awesome would it be when you get up in somebody's face and you start hearing
Now, hopefully we didn't spoil that for anybody. It's a guess. We don't know. We could be totally wrong. But that would be
awesome.
Now, a lot of people said, well, I've already kind of solved this problem myself by using the integrated music player function and just loading up a playlist.
Sure.
Now, can I call you out on something?
Sure.
When you said that, you're like, yeah, you said something to the effect of like, yeah, good, it needs some more music. Now, are you knocking the existing music, or are you just saying you've heard it enough and you want something new?
It's repetitive, and I've heard all of it so many times. In fact, very frequently I turn it off these days.
Yeah, I do too, but I think it's, well, not always. I mean, I still think it's one of the better elements of the game, and I've played some newer MMOs recently that didn't do the escalation of the music as well, where the switch to combat and back, and also the integration of when you complete a mission and the trumpets come up. That's all really well done. So I've always felt the music was a really, really strong point of STO. But to get some, and it definitely is, the music's an homage to the real music, but to get the actual music in there would be a huge for Star Trek fans.
Yes, and actually, some of the selections of STO I think sound a little superhero-y. I think that they...
Well, and my captain is a bit of a superhero.
That's true.
That's all you got for that, huh?
That's the end of my argument, I guess.
I don't know. Now, this next thing we did get a little bit more details on, and it's also very awesome, and that's the original series interior updates.
We showed you a shot of it last week, I think.
Yeah, the hallway.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got another one that we'll cover here in a second that looks really good. But before we jump to that...
We did get more information. Yeah. They're telling us that the entire interior of your ship, just as we were hoping, will be redone to be the original series. That includes your ready room. That includes 10 forward. That includes anything that you would have in your classic
like a shuttle
interior.
bay, maybe. Interesting note, though, on the interior is that the original Enterprise, Kirk's Enterprise, they never show a ready room, so they didn't have like a reference design to go off. So I'm curious to see what they came up with. And so I'm really looking forward to being able to take my captain to an original series ready room that was always intended to be there, but we never actually got to see. So that's a nice way they can add to the game, to the series like that.
As long as they don't screw it up,
Yeah. They also mentioned...
Do it right.
They also mentioned, speaking of screwing it up, that, as they add this stuff, when they add more stuff later on, it becomes a task now to have to go back and retouch all this stuff.
Well, not only that, but if they implement missions down the line that incorporate your interior, it's possible that just because of the way that the maps are generated and everything, they might have to generate multiple versions of those maps with different interior sets.
I would think
incorporated into them.
I would think so.
And then have some sort of a character flag to set off which map you go to. It could get complicated, people.
Yeah, that's
and it's an ongoing issue. If they continue to put more and more different interior packs into the game, then it's something that they're going to have to deal with down the line with every new mission.
That's why they're the professionals doing it, not us.
Yeah,
because
I don't have to do that.
No, it would be awful. One last thing is, we'll jump to it now because we've got the what we're calling the tweet leaks. If you've not been following some of the cryptic folks on Twitter,
you don't have to because we will for you.
That's true. I guess that's true. One of the first things we'll cover is it was tweeted out a nice shot of a bridge original series interior that they're working on.
Yeah.
How great does that look?
I love the lighting. I know some of the consoles in this shot are not completed
yet. They're not done
yet. So I'm curious if they're going to fill it with LCARs or if they're going to go for something more retro and classic. I'm hoping the latter just because of the feel of the whole thing. But
definitely.
If they do it right, the former couldn't be bad because
make it look like
bring it up.
It's retrofitted.
Yeah. But yeah, I really want to see it. Now, the first thing that popped into my mind when I saw this was that the railings didn't look right because I thought they were supposed to be more curved.
So we went out and found some reference photos.
Yeah, and they are supposed to be kind of blocky like that. Yeah. So whatever, they're doing a good job.
Yeah. Now, something else that we saw in the Twitter feed was an image of what looks to be a cityscape from the next weekly that's going to come out.
Episode 5. So
5.
Cutting the Cord, which is going to be the final of this series, the Romulan series.
And that's where this image comes from, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Mm-hmm. I liked seeing that one.
I think my favorite part of the cityscape, I mean, just on a whole, it looks great, but that sunlit haze lays over the city, it just looks amazing.
It looks real.
Yeah, it looks real.
It looks like somebody was up like on their porch and they took a snapshot with their digital camera.
And they just happen to live near a whole bunch of Romulans.
With a Star Trek reticle HUD system on their camera for some reason.
Right.
Yeah. The other thing the last thing that we'll mention that was in the Twitter feed this week was a super high-res photo of a Gorn model from Cryptic Matte. And I'm amazed by the detail on this thing. You add color and uniform to that, and it could be slick looking.
Absolutely. I'm hoping that this will be a standard option for Gorn, and it's not going to be something that we have to buy on a C-store. But I don't see why anybody that has a Gorn character or bridge officer would not use this. Yeah. It is so sweet.
Yeah.
And it finally makes the Gorn look a little more real.
Yeah, more
tangible,
lizardy. And less dinosaur, more lizard.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. If I had to choose between dinosaurs and lizards.
I know. I do kind of like dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll let you still do the old dinosaur. Maybe you'd be like a retro.
Maybe we can have a slider.
It'll be the difference between like Klingons without the bumpy forehead and Klingons with the bumpy forehead.
Okay, I go for that.
Now, some of us, just probably a few so far, have hit our 400-day vet reward, and more, of course, every day. Mm-hmm. And along with a respec and now access to the captain's table, if you didn't have that already, also came the captain's yacht.
Yeah, I don't have it yet. So what do you think of it?
Well, so
I got it.
I got the captain's yacht, and I'll be completely honest. I have fantasized about the captain's yacht since I saw the technical manuals for the Enterprise D and realized such a thing existed. And honestly, the one from the Enterprise D didn't look that interesting. But of course, in Star Trek Insurrection, we got to see the captain's yacht. And from that moment on, I knew I always wanted a captain's yacht, either a toy model of it or something. Mm-hmm. So when I heard we were getting a captain's yacht, it's one of the ships I've been looking forward to the most.
Yeah?
So that said...
It's just a shuttle, though.
I know... But I'm a ship guy, and the artwork and the having that, like I one of the big reasons I even fly the Excelsior is because it's just gorgeous.
Yep.
Yeah. So I had a lot of high expectations for the captain's yacht.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty pleased. I took it into combat, which you've probably seen some clips of, and it actually performed exceedingly
surprisingly well.
It actually turned out to be a great little crystalline entity shard hunter.
Yeah. Because
it turns on a dime and it comes equipped with a 360-degree phaser array out of the gate.
Yep.
And so you can run and turn from those shards, and you can really keep them off people's tail while they damage the crystal entity.
Yeah. And if you find you're getting chased by one, you can just whip it right around and head out of there.
Yeah. Because it's, I think, a little bit larger than the Delta Flyer or like the Runabout.
It does seem so, yeah.
It maneuvers slightly slower.
I don't think
in a good way.
I don't think it's actually slower. I think it's just because the model is larger. It feels that way.
It's like, I don't like in the Delta Flyer. Sometimes I feel like I lose control when I go to full impulse. Like it just.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But in this, I was under control the whole time. I didn't feel like I was ever turning too much or overshooting.
Cool.
It was very very under control.
So now let's cover some of the details, because some of the people out there might think that they're supposed to have it already and don't. So why don't we go ahead and clarify some of that confusion, because. The days that are counted towards your 400 days are not actually the days that you have been playing. They're the days that you've been paying.
Yeah.
So if you, for example, bought the game on release day and played your entire 30-day trial.
So you got a free 30 days.
Mm-hmm, and then started subscribing, that day that you signed up for the subscription is your day one. So it doesn't matter how long you were playing, even in closed beta. But like for you bought your subscription actually before the game even launched.
Right.
So it started counting then.
Yeah.
So people in your position are lucky, and they already have it.
I mean, it's just a couple of days there, and the other people will start getting it.
Right.
That are that far in. And it's cool because
I'm only on like day 388 or something like now.
Well, and some folks in our chat room are like on day 180, and there's a day 280 in there. Yeah. So they have something to look forward to, too, which is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. I expect to actually frequently jump into it just to go have fun shooting around in that little thing.
I just wish you could launch them directly from your ship. I look forward to having shuttle bays on our interiors so that you can do so.
Or from the bottom of my hull.
And just moving on a little bit here, you did mention briefly the fact that the 400-day reward is bringing more people into the captain's table. Now, many of you may recall that last week's community feedback was asking you how... it was asking for your suggestions on how to improve and or overhaul the captain's table.
Yeah.
So now that more of you will have access, maybe we'll have even more responses to that. We're going to go ahead and put off the response show until next week.
Yeah, we got the interview with Gozer plus Tactical View. We thought we got a ton of show there, and we want to give you guys more of a response. So send us your thoughts on what you'd like to see with the Captain's Table. And I'd like to open up the invitation now we might expand on this later, so I'm just going to throw this out there. But consider there's been a conversation going on in the Stowe forums regarding player polls in-game. Is that something that maybe could be worked into the Captain's Table? So send us your thoughts on those topics over to STOked@JupiterBroadcasting.com.
That's great.
All right, J-Man, let's get into the Gozer interview. On the line with us, we have Gozer from Cryptic. Hey, Gozman, or Dan Griffiths, as a lot of you might know him as.
No, everybody knows him as Gozer, I'm sure.
So. Hey, Gozman, how you doing?
Hey, gentlemen, how's it going?
Pretty good. Now, we're excited to have you on the show because, as you know, we've been talking with a lot of folks at Cryptic, and we're sort of getting back in touch with folks. And you are on the high end of our list here because we've got a couple of questions that are, I think, specifically targeted towards you. J-Man, why don't I just throw it over you? We'll get rolling.
Sure. Well, before we get started, I do want to let folks know that we caught Dan on a day off because he's sick. I think he's at home even.
Yeah, thanks for still doing the interview even though you're sick.
Yeah. So if he starts hacking, we'll just have to remember to cut that out.
That's fair. Good point.
So Dan, you are a content designer, correct, for Cryptic Studios?
Right.
So most of our questions today are going to have to do with upcoming content.
All right.
I'm curious. I'm just going to start off with some of the bigger questions that the community has had. Are there any plans in the work for additional KDF exclusive content coming, specifically possibly even sorties in the Psi Valorum sector?
It's something I think we want to do. I don't think we want to have sector blocks that don't have any content. That's why we put the ones in Pi Canis when we opened it up. So I think we absolutely want to add some more of that type of content. It's just a matter of time
and priorities, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much we have on our plate.
If it's something that's not on your plate right now, I'd like to recommend that we see more of those, actually.
Gozer, is there any details you can share with us, sticking with the Klingons, about the upcoming change, potentially for Season 4, where we're going to be able to go right in as a Klingon from launch? I mean, doesn't that involve like a whole new tutorial creation and all that kind of stuff?
I've heard what they're doing. I don't know exactly what the plans are yet. I know that they're talking about creating a Klingon tutorial that basically brings you up to the level that you are now. So that's about all I know so far. I haven't been in on those conversations. I've been busy in my own little world.
And what exactly is your own little world at this point in time?
Well, so that seems to be a wonderful forum topic these days too. What's Gozer doing today?
Yeah.
So the last few weeks I've been working on the episode that comes out Saturday. So episode 3 in the weekly series is Frozen. That's what I've been working on.
Which actually, when this episode comes out, we'll include a review of that.
Yep.
Yeah,
hopefully we don't hate it.
Yeah.
So Frozen's what I've been doing for the last few weeks. Before that was the remastered Stranded in Space. And before that was the Pi Canis content. I'm not sure because I've been out of the office for a day or so. But I think the next thing I have is more remastered stuff, and I don't really know which one yet.
Now we've heard that Pajem is going to be, if not the next, then one of the next. That introductory mission where we're first introduced to the Undine is going to be one of the next remasters.
I know we want to do Pajem, although I think the last I heard, we may just do a quick fix on a couple of, like, one of the things that really bothers us about Pajem, at least me, is when we made Pajem, we didn't have Vulcan, right? So we had no place to send you to go get the ambassador other than Earth Space Dock. But that kind of breaks the flow now. We really don't like you having to go back because a lot of people miss him the first time.
Right. Yeah.
So I think one of the things, we may not do a full remaster on Pajem right away. I think one of the things we may do is just change up that beginning a little bit to where it flows better.
Maybe move the ambassador to Vulcan where you pick him up.
Yeah. Maybe have you pick him up there. Maybe do a shortcut scene when he does the transform and then make the enemy player scale.
Okay, you've actually brought up a number of topics that I want to do follow-up questions on.
Totally.
So let's hit one at a time here. Are you able to tell us a list of other episodes that you would like, that Cryptic would like mastered in the near future?
Or that you've at least kicked around?
I have heard Past Imperfect mentioned that is probably on the list, and of course Pajem.
Yeah.
Are there any others out there that you could let us know about?
I'm trying to remember. We just had this meeting a couple of days ago, and I'm trying to remember all the ones in the first hub. I know that Past Imperfect and City on the Edge were brought up. basically we kind of take them one at a time. So I know that I think we were thinking Pajim, and then we said no, let's just fix Pajim real quick and solve the problems that we have with it, and then move to something else. So I'm not really sure exactly where that list is. Eventually, hopefully, we'll get all of them.
Are you guys taking suggestions on the forums or anything like that? Is it something that the community might want to make their voices heard on?
Sure. We always listen.
Now, something else you touched on, Gozer, was the establishing shots and some of the cutscenes and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I really dug the establishing shot. I saw some people in the forum saying, "Why did you have to do an establishing shot back to the transporter room?"
Right.
I totally got where you're going. You're establishing that place in our mind so we remember back to it and things like that.
And the actual series did that all the time. You didn't see the transporter room every single episode.
No, for budget reasons, if nothing else.
Right.
Because the transporter effect was expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that work that you're doing? Is that something that you think going back on it was just not done originally for time, or was it something that you guys just weren't going to add to the gameplay element and have decided now it's something that sort of needs to be there?
So if you look back, so Stranded in Space was the I think the first episode we made when we started content production for Star Trek. So we didn't have a lot of the things that we have now. I mean, we didn't have a transporter room.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have all of the bells and whistles. We didn't have the cutscene stuff. So
was the engineering room even done at that point? Because it uses a different engineering room too.
We didn't have the engineering room. We didn't have a transporter room. We didn't have. This was all stuff that we had at launch, but not when we did this. Right? We didn't have the little cinematics of you and your crew beaming out. So there's all kinds of things that we didn't have that I had no idea we were even getting when I made that episode.
Wow, that's a fascinating little bit of insight.
In regards to the evolving technology that you guys are getting with in just built into the engine or things that you've come up with, shortcuts and stuff like that. How much of this is going to eventually make it over to the Foundry? I'm specifically wondering if the cutscene technology has any plans to be ported over for player use.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not the guy to ask about the Foundry stuff. That it would seem like it would be. The cutscene tech, the tool that we use is really almost just like the demo record stuff that's already out there, right?
And it's probably just as complicated as demo tool. I saw a recent tweet from you saying, "God, this is hard to use."
Yeah.
Well, cutscenes are a pain in the ass. There's no way around it.
But the payoff is big.
They're epic, though.
Yeah, the fun thing, so the way cutscenes work, it's all real time. So you're controlling the camera and you're controlling the actors and you're controlling it all real time.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be on the map that you're playing the cutscene on in order for it to work, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It does make sense, yeah.
So it makes Space Ones incredibly hard because there's no AI for it in space, because the cutscene tool originally was designed for Champions, and then Neverwinter improved upon it. So most of the changes, so it basically doesn't work at all in space.
I've seen that because the entity that you're playing, your ship, has a completely different AI set.
Yeah, and so one of the fun things, this episode's coming up this weekend, has a couple of space cutscenes, but that's all AI that I've made. I've placed actors in the world temporarily, and I'm having them do things that's all scripted things. And the problem that
is no stranger to the Foundry folks. They know about those workarounds.
the problem with that though is that's server side, and the cutscene is client side. So you have to be smarter than the cutscene, and you have to take into account, like, what happens if there's a little bit of a pause here, or there's a little bit of server lag, which is bound to happen, especially on the very first day it goes live.
Yep.
So we'll see. But cutscenes are a pain in the ass. There's no easy way around them.
Now, you touched on the server stuff, but before we jump off of the too far from the remastered episodes, if we ended up not seeing every single episode in the game remastered per se, one thing that would be really great is if they could all have scalable bad guys now. Has there been any conversations about that?
Like possibly even using the scalable tech that is used on the remastered, just plugging it into mission replay.
That's something I think we want to do. Anytime we make a mission replayable, we want to make sure it scales. I think we're going to touch all of the episodes in the game. The amount of remastering that goes into them really depends on the mission, I think.
Yeah, and the state of the mission, sure.
Yeah.
What else we got for him?
Well, you were making episode 3. Have you been involved with any of the other feature episodes from this series, from the Romulan series?
Just what I've seen. I've been seeing the other ones over my shoulder.
Yeah. Dan has dropped a number of hints on us about episode 4, Coliseum. I was wondering if you might be able to drop any hints about what we might see in episode 5.
Oh, I'm not telling.
Did you see? I'll leave it for
We
later in
probably
the show.
already covered that in the news segment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, so next question.
I'm wondering, and I think a lot of people are wondering about this. We know that you have been intrinsic in the creation and the updating of the special task forces. Now, it seems that right now they're almost taking a back burner for some reasons. Maybe that's the upcoming ground combat changes. I was wondering if you might just have any general comments on the current state of the special task forces or what people should expect in the near future.
I think a lot of it is that we're waiting on the ground combat changes to happen. I think anything we do would be stuff we would have to redo after that anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
One step we've already taken towards the STFs is we plan on making the STFs, at least the Borg STFs for now, to where the difficulty slider will work. It seems like a lot of the feedback I've been seeing on the STFs over the last month or so is not stuff that's wrong with the mission logic. I mean, I'm hearing weird things and I'm seeing weird things reported on the forums that all has to do with the Borg entities themselves, the trash mobs. They're doing funny things, or they're running around, or
like the ones that
spawning in,
jump 2 layers into the ceiling and then fall down upon you.
Yeah, so about a month ago, I got with the systems guys, and they're actually going through all of the Borg right now and making sure they're all correct and taking away some stuff from the Super Borg that were for the STFs and looking at the regular Borg and making them more the same. So what eventually will happen is we'll have one group of Borg that basically works for both PvE and the STFs, and then the difficulty slider makes them tougher. And those guys are just the trash mobs.
In regards to the difficulty slider, would the current level of the special task forces be normal and then it gets more difficult from there, or is it the other way around?
I would say the current level, it would probably be advanced.
Okay, which is the middle range, right?
Yeah, you'd have an easier one and then an elite one on the top, and then the difficulty slider basically, would make those go up and down.
I got to admit, even the thought of playing through a special task force on elite, that makes me cry a little bit.
I know.
Yeah. Maybe I'm not very good at this game.
I want to ask if you have any nuggets to share about ground combat improvements. I know that's kind of the elephant in the room regarding STF fixes. So anything you can share with us on ground combat?
So I haven't seen much of it. A lot of it is happening outside of my little bubble, but what I have seen is pretty cool. It reminds me, like I said earlier, it reminds me a lot of like Mass Effect type combat. One thing to know right off the top is we're not planning on taking anything away from anyone. So when this combat is added to the game, what you're playing right now is still an option. So you'll still be able to to do everything that you do now if you like that type of combat. However, the new ground combat will actually be a mode that you can put yourself into if you want to play it the new way.
Huh. Interesting.
Okay.
I hadn't really thought of that. I kind of like that.
Are there any sweeping changes that just affect the entire game across the board and people are going to have to relearn how to play, basically? It's not that kind of an overhaul?
No, I mean, I think, well, it's a big overhaul, right? But it's only a big overhaul if you're playing in the new mode, if that makes sense.
That makes me a little bit happy. I want to go back to one thing we touched on earlier. I forgot to do a follow-up on this. And this isn't something that I expect coming, but I'd just like to know, on a personal note for you, what other establishing shots would you like to see in future remastered episodes?
I want to see an episode where you see yourself go down to the shuttle bay and take a shuttle out of your ship and then see it enter the atmosphere and land. And I want to see, I mean, just everything, right? I want to see a bunch of that kind of thing.
Yeah. I'd love to see some ship internal stuff. Seeing the shuttle bay or another area of my ship. I'd really
or maybe
like
even
that.
just having a conversation on your bridge with somebody on your view screen, something like that.
Yeah, the big thing about the transporter establishing shot was the first thing that came to mind. It's, oh yeah, those are my people back on my ship working for me.
Right.
I really liked it. So if shots of engineering, boss down working on engineering, shots of a shuttle bay. Oh, that'd be all kinds of epic.
Oh, I guess I do have one more content question.
All right.
A lot of people right now, the big topic on everybody's mind is the duty roster coming up. And I'm wondering if in addition to all the logistics sides of the duty roster, are there any like content mission type things that are going to be added alongside that you know of?
I have no idea right now. They keep me in the dark about that stuff. That stuff's all being planned, but eventually it'll come over to content. to implement, and then they'll let me know. But
by the way, you have to do 400 missions.
That'll just be another excuse to get you back on the show, Goz, man. So that works out. Hey, Gozer, is there anything you want to touch on specifically before we wrap up?
No, just keep playing.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoy the episode coming out this weekend. I kind of feel like it's the middle child of the series. I didn't get any cool special stuff really to work with, but I did my best.
Well, I'm sure we'll have got a chance to play through it by the time this episode comes out. So at some point we'll review it and share our thoughts on it. You know, one of the things that we've been doing is we've been doing that gameplay event live on Saturday when you guys release it. Mm-hmm. And every weekend we have more and more people showing up to the live stream who are playing along with us. And people are, the chat room, as soon as it goes live, as soon as the episode is out, there's 100 people that instantly in the chat room, it's out, we're playing. And they just get all excited. So it's really cool. And if you'd ever like to join us on a Saturday, you're more than welcome over at JupiterBroadcasting.com/live.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Gozer. Well, thanks for coming on the show. I'm sure we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome to Tactical View. It's time to talk about the new weekly episode, Frozen, the third part in our current Cloaked Intentions.
It was very appropriate because when we started playing this morning, it was very cold in this garage. Studio. It's a studio garage. To be fair, I came out here at like 6:30 a.m. and turned on the heaters. So it could have been even more nipply?
Yeah. Can you believe that?
Yes. Thank you for turning the heat on.
Yeah. Now, let's start off with something that didn't happen in this episode, and that was the server crashes.
Yeah.
We didn't get booted. Neither one of us got booted. In fact,
we didn't have any zoning difficulties or anything.
No, we took a poll from our chat room, and they were also, for the most part, there was a couple people that had a few issues in there, but it was really solid for them as well.
Yeah, probably 80 to 90% of everybody was just a smooth issue this week.
Props to the Cryptic guys.
Not only that, but one of them actually confirmed they had just as many people trying to log in today as they had last week.
Pretty much.
So it wasn't like people got burned and didn't want to log in on Saturday, and so it was just a self-correcting issue. No, this was. They just fixed it.
I had a feeling that Cryptic was probably feeling kind of confident they had isolated the issue, at least to an extent, because there was like 3 or 4 different people from there that tweeted, "Be sure to log in at 11 a.m." So I thought, okay, if you're actively pushing us to log in at 11 a.m., you're probably feeling pretty good about it. That let us get into the mission and just have a good time. And I think for the most part, you did.
Yeah, it was pretty enjoyable. I think I'll save my overall impressions until after we're done, but let's talk about a few of the specifics.
Okay.
We've given the Admiral Tanay voice kind of a hard time in the past, but I think both of us kind of feel that in this voiceover, the introductory voiceover of this mission, kind of stepped it up a notch.
The game was, I felt, stepped up. Yeah. And I thought actually the ending dialogue was pretty good too.
Yeah. So. There was specifically the last paragraph of her opening dialogue I just thought was really a great delivery.
It was delivered well, yeah.
Yeah.
Realize this is a dangerous situation and that you may be drawn into conflict. But do not antagonize the Remans or the Romulans if you can avoid doing so.
And then there was also the we got the static effect again, which was fun to see. And it wasn't overused. It was just here's a little spot where you can fly into it. And
remember, we can do this.
Yeah. Remember how much you liked this? Yes, I do. I still like it. So that was cool. And then if you just watch the Gozer interview, you know that Gozer mentioned that the cutscenes from the remastered episodes, and specifically the space cutscenes, were sort of a challenge. And so it was pretty neat to see space cutscenes in this episode, and very good space cutscenes.
Yeah,
you like them?
They were fun. They really set up exactly what we were doing. We were intervening between a Reman and Romulan civil war. I mean, that's kind of what's going on here. Yeah. So, and it was just, it was a very simple cutscene, but it set up exactly what was going on so clearly that you could never do just by having to watch the avatars from distance. I
specifically thought that they were able to set up certain story elements that cutscenes directly needed to have.
Yes.
And I thought there was a moment, where the Romulan ship is attacking the other ship, and it's like, oh man, I want to do something. I want to help. And so I felt like compelled to help. So it was well done. I like that. And then also on the ground, a lot of really good cutscenes.
One in particular is when you come face to face finally for the first time with Obasek. Previously you had met him just over your ship's communicator, but this time you actually meet him face to face. Maybe that's the reason for the difference in his voice.
That's what it is.
Is it?
It's the comm link versus the Versus
He has a
in person.
modulator on his comm link to make him sound more impressive.
No, I think just because he was comm linky. I don't know what it was.
It's the same voice actor. We did get confirmation of that. But yeah, he did sound a little bit different. Not bad. Not bad.
No, it was good.
Yeah, I still
a
really
huge
enjoy
fan.
Obasek.
Ah, it's you. Welcome to the heart of the Resistance, little spy. There is so much for us to discuss, and so little time.
Not only the voices, but his entire dialogue is so well written.
I specifically have noted each time I've interacted with Obasek that I'm compelled to read the next dialogue prompt, where sometimes, especially when I'm playing live and there's 300 people watching me what I'm doing, I feel the pressure to move, and I click through sometimes.
Right.
Obasek, though, I stop, I listen, I read every single piece, and I like every single one.
Let me kind of sidetrack here just for a minute, but how cool is it that we finally have an antagonist or protagonist that we're interacting with whose name we remember?
I know, and it's the same thing for TV shows. Like my rule of thumb with TV shows is if I watch an episode or two and I don't remember the character names, I'm not interested in the show.
Yeah,
and that makes it sound like what I'm about to say. I don't mean to say that and say that I didn't enjoy the previous weeklies, but I had to really rack my brain to remember the antagonists in the previous weekly episodes.
Yeah,
but top of my head, Admiral Tanay, Obasek, and fascinating. Obasek's a fascinating antagonist. I feel he's what Kor was to Kirk for our captains.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a true, like, we respect each other, but he's on the other side. And, I really like that. You got to figure some of that is due to the voiceovers.
I think so. I think it gives us a little more of a deeper connection to these characters.
Yeah, association. You can associate a voice and a sound with the face.
I'm hoping that in the future episodes, the Romulan Tal Shiar, Hakiv, is going to get a little more fleshed out there as well, because we saw him a little bit in the previous episode, but almost didn't remember his name until Obasek actually mentioned it.
Right.
In his dialogue.
It is great though to be so invested in the Obasek character, and that's not just the voiceover; it's the writing and it's the suspense. Every time you get to him, it's been some sort of build up to reach him,
and we care what happens to him.
Yeah.
What if at the end of this whole series, if he gets killed or something, we'll feel that.
Yeah,
we'll actually that'll have an impact on us.
That's a good point. That is very true.
So yeah, great writing, great cutscenes, great really everything.
We got some hints of Obasek dropped some hints of the Iconians as well. The demons.
Yeah, Obasek is claiming that the demons of air and darkness, I think they call them, are the ones leading the Tal Shiar down this war path.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting to see. Now, we had been hinted at before that we would see some hints of the Iconians in this. I'm wondering if we will actually see them interacting with Hakiv. Maybe that's how he gets fleshed out.
I don't know. If they build him up like this, I think earlier, I think I might have been on the air saying I wasn't super stoked about the Iconians.
That's true.
But if you build them up like this, if you do it, and this is what I was saying, I think I said this before, if you build it like this, I'm going to really look forward to the Iconians. Right. That's going to be a great payoff. Can we chat just a second about the career-specific goals? Because we've had that in each episode.
Oh, okay. No, we can. Okay,
all right. And it was, I think, personally, in my opinion, the best implemented in this episode. Really well explained, and you tie it with accolades, which is cool. I like getting accolades.
And the one for science is called Crystal Method, which is not a bad band.
Now, the thing that worked well with those career-specific jobs was the extra work on the environment, where like I was science and I had to go pick up crystals. And when I went and grabbed a crystal, they were removed from the environment.
Right.
And I would run over to the machinery and I would set it down on the machinery and it would appear. And I intuitively knew to step over to this console. I didn't even actually have a chance to see it flash. I just like, okay, now I go over here, I push these buttons, and that was exactly what I was supposed to do. They do their work. I go over, I pick those crystals back up, and they're gone.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm really interacting with it. And I guess
it's not just a bunch of static things that you press F and win.
And I guess the tactical folks had some pretty good animations, and all of this was to get this cool old drilling laser working again to blast through a door, which was a great story element too. It's just
Although then you blast down the door and your tactical officer says, it seems they were expecting us. Maybe we just should have knocked.
It's cutesy though. I like that. That made me smart.
Another cutesy little pop-up was when the spiders hop out at you. Your tactical officer again says, "Why does every new species we find try to kill us?"
I did not see that. I was teamed up. So
right.
Oh man.
Yeah. Some of the things you miss when you team up.
That's why I always replay. I always do a replay of one way or the other.
So let's just break this down. The whole mission on a whole, I think we enjoyed, but
it was a bit short.
It was short. And I don't know that it entirely stacks up to the previous weeks. It had some great points to it. How I feel about this mission on a whole is that because we have so much anticipation building up to these weekly episodes, this one feels like it fell flat. But as part of the entire package, I don't think that I would have felt that at all. If I was able to play all of these Romulan missions, episodes 1 through 5, back to back, I think I would have enjoyed everything that I did in this episode just as part of the whole. Plus, it has so much great dialogue that you can tell is just building to an incredible climax. Mm-hmm. We don't get the payoff this week, but if you were able to pay that setup and the climax back to back,
that payoff is better because of this episode.
Exactly.
Yeah, I completely think that's where it fits, and we're seeing it. It's like when 24 comes out. If you watch 24 back to back to back, it's an amazing series.
Yeah.
If you watch it weekly, it's excruciating.
And some of the episodes are complete crap on their own because they're just building up or wrapping up.
Heck, dude, you throw back to Enterprise's last season where they were doing their story arcs, and every now and then there was just one episode or two that was building character or moving the plot forward, but wasn't that payoff. And
I even mentioned Best of Both Worlds, that 2-part Borg series. And the first episode, a large part of that was just tension and exposition and talking and tacticals and all this stuff and very little action.
But looking back on it, it makes the action that much better.
It made the cliffhanger of that episode just so much more poignant, and the payoff the next season was fantastic.
Yeah, it was.
So I love it.
And in all fairness, we still, even though we weren't treated with a super long episode, we're treated with an amazing, once again, ground art and the space art. But let's talk specifically about the cave system with the ice effects and the snow
and the waterfalls coming down.
Absolutely gorgeous. And then as you look at the different equipment that's in there, you can see inspirations of kind of Riemann technology, Romulan technology with some Borg electricity in there almost. But then also at the same time, there's just some old school drilling equipment in there, and the entire environment is completely emerging. In fact, honestly, we were joking, but we think it might have contributed to our feeling that it was so cold in the studio because we felt cold playing the game.
It was an ice cave.
Yeah.
With and you get breath effects off your buffs and everything, although my character's was coming out his ears.
That's because that's how he breathes.
It might have been appropriate. I don't know.
I also really like just the simple space map we got. It's the small touches with the blue cloud and the small ring and the rocks that really make that something more than just an empty space that you zone into. And it's only the work of that environment team that makes that work right there. And my hat's off to them again for the third episode in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, from the last ones too, but this has just been the best of the best so far.
Yeah.
So I agree with a lot of the forum posters say they wanted it longer, but I think, like you say, man, when it's all in one big story arc, it's going to be just right. Mm-hmm. It's going to be just right.
Yeah.
Anything else we should talk about?
Nope. I think we just need to sit tight and wait for the payoff and just consider it as part of the whole.
Money, man. Yeah. All right, everyone. Well, Stoked comes out every Tuesday, all edited up and pretty. But if you want to watch the ugly version with all the warts, you can tune in over at jupiterbroadcasting.com/live Saturdays at 11 a.m. That's when the episodes go up. Yeah. We're on here playing and having a good time with the chat room. Yeah.
Well, mostly a good time.
Or sometimes yelling at them. Only when they're not being good internet people. Though.
Yeah, be human, people.
We love you, chat room. We love you.
Some of you.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of Stoked, and we'll see you right back here next Tuesday.
Happy with my haircut as well, for the record.
Oh, and Gozer's sick. Luckily, I'm happy-go-lucky today. I actually got some rest. All right.
I did not.
That's funny what a little sleep will do. Yeah. Whack or having some. Okay, Goz, we're going to start in 3, 2. In 3, 2.